Yes, good afternoon, students. Uh, as we have discussed the first 2 units in the physical classrooms, we have discussed in detail about what is research methodology and what are the different research problems and what is the nature of the research problem and how to decide and how to select a problem for research and whether there is a scope for doing any research in that problem or not, we have discussed in the first 2 units. And I have posted one video during lockdown period on fifth unit, that is research methodology and IPR, that is intellectual property rights, types of intellectual properties, including copyrights, trademarks, and other methods, patents, etc. I have posted the video. Hope all of you have gone through that IPR video, and you are free to ask any questions on that IPR video and report writing part. That report writing part is also posted in the YouTube, our YouTube channel, and all of you are requested to go through that video and come back with some queries. Okay. Today I will be discussing the third unit, that is research designs. Okay, because unless until we know the research design, we cannot move on to the next topic, that is what is sampling design. So in general, we'll be studying the types of research designs in today's class, and in the subsequent classes we'll be studying in detail about what is the sampling design. That is for detailed study. Okay. So generally the research designs or the research design method is a strategy for asking your research questions. Generally, whenever we take any research problem, we will be embedded with many queries. We will be having a lot of queries in our mind regarding how to solve this particular thing, what is this, and when to go for this particular method, etc. Say for example, if you are constructing a house, for that sake the problem is house construction. In that case, we will be discussing about what should be there in this place, which should go into which place, and how this thing should be designed, how the hall should be designed, how the kitchen should be designed, when these two things should be given some connectivity, etc. Basically, all these types of questionnaires will come to our mind, and based on that we have one type of research design, that is descriptive design. We will be expecting a lot of answers for what, when, how, where, etc. kind of questions. Okay. So if at all these questions are answered properly, then probably we are completed with the descriptive design. And the second type of design is correlative design. Experimental design, review design, these are the 5 important types of the research designs. That is descriptive, correlative, wherein we correlate two variables, wherein we correlate two concepts and do the design or study the research problem. experimental, wherein we will go to the particular field and do the experimentation, and we will go to the particular spot and collect the data, collect the information. That kind of design is the experimental design. And review design. So we will not go to a field or a field of study physically. We will be studying only the literature review, what is available, what is the literature available about that particular problem. We'll be collecting lot of papers, lot of journal articles. Some will be going through some patents, recent patents on that particular problem, etc. And that kind of design is review design. Meta-analysis design. Sometimes we do collect the metadata and analyze the given problem. Okay. So with this, I will come to the definition of the research design. The research design is a strategy for answering your research questions. A lot of research questions can be answered with this strategy, and the strategy will differ from problem to problem, and questions also will differ from one problem to the another problem. So this research design is going to determine how you will collect and analyze your data. That is very, very important. We are going to collect the information. Suppose if you are doing a research on weather monitoring system, in that case, how actually you are collecting the weather data? Are you collecting from the internet by downloading some Excel or CSV files online that is available on the different weather monitoring systems, forecasting systems, or you are going to the particular area and fix up the setup and collect the weather information on real-time basis. So that is how exactly you have planned to collect the information and analyze your information. So this is the contribution by the research design. So it is, I repeat, research design basically is a strategy for answering your all research related problems, all research problem related questions, and research design is going to help you in informing that how to collect the information and how to analyze the information. So basically the decisions regarding, as we discussed with one example, decisions regarding what, where, when, how much, and by what means concerning an inquiry or a research study constitute a research design. So when you look at that particular problem with all the different angles, and if you look at the problem and question how this is going to take place, what is this, and when this is going to take place, and how the information should be collected. If you are going to discuss and if you are going to ask the questions based on the particular problem, then it is going to constitute a research design. So once you are ready with all these questionnaire, then probably your research design is complete. What is the next slide? That is meaning of research design. The research design is the arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure. So that is, research design is not only looking at the problem and asking all the research questions. Research design is also responsible for arranging our analysis and collection methods, and in what way, if we collect the information and analyze the information, in what way we'll be able to combine our relevance of the problem to the purpose. So whenever the problem is decided, the purpose of the problem is decided, how the research design should help in combining our aim to the given problem. Okay. So research design have the following different parts. As I said, we'll be discussing the first two methods, that is sampling design, observation design in the fourth unit, and statistical design and operational design is not there for our syllabus. So today in this class we'll see in brief about some terminologies of the research design, and we will see how these terminologies will help us in going for adopting some research design methods like sampling design, observational design, etc. So let us see what are the, let us have an insight into these different design parts. The first one is sampling design. Sampling design is the method which deals with the methods of selecting items. So in a given problem, there will be lot of samples available, and the entire set of samples or the entire data set is called as the population. And in the entire given data set, what data is to be selected and which samples are to be selected, and why these samples only have to be selected, and why you are ignoring the other samples. If you are doing that kind of analysis, and if at all your research design method is helping you in selecting items to be observed for the study, then that kind of research design is called as the sampling design. Similarly, we have observational design. Observational design is the design method which relates to the conditions under which the observations are to be made. See, we were discussing about the research problem of weather monitoring. Suppose if you are imagining situation like greenhouse environment, whether you want to monitor the condition or health of the plant, or some disease conditions of the plant under under a greenhouse environment, wherein all the parameters, all the weather parameters are controlled, and they will not be at par with the normal weather parameters. So controlled environment will be there. So suppose if you are examining the given problem, or if you are observing the particular plant, its growth, about its disease, etc., in the controlled environment, greenhouse environment, in that case you are observing that particular thing with some condition in mind. So under what conditions you observe the problem, if at all your intention is that, then the particular design is called as the observational design. The third comes statistical design. Okay, so whenever the given data set is available, you will decide which samples from the large data set have to be selected, and under what conditions I should select those and analyze those is dealt by the observation method. But after that, after gathering that particular information, how to generate the conclusions, how to come up with some inferences after collecting the lot of information, is dealt by the statistical design. That is, it concerns about the question of the how the information and data generated are to be analyzed properly. So after the information collection stage or information gathering stage, the statistical design method have to be applied based on only the statistical analysis. So there are different statistical analytical methods which have to be used for analyzing. For example, if it is about the particular lesion or shape of the disease, in that case we go for shape parameters, and we analyze the particular lesion, or we will draw the conclusion based on what is available is whether healthy or diseased. In that case, we will be applying a lot of statistical measures like mean, standard deviation, variance, etc. So such statistical tools or such statistical measures are used for analyzing the given problem. then it is nothing but the statistical design. So this statistical design comes after when we have sufficient information collected with us, sufficient information available with us, then we'll be applying the different statistical methods for analysis. Okay, and the fourth type of the design, research design, is the operational design. Okay, this operational design deals with techniques by which the procedures satisfied be carried out. Okay, what techniques have to be carried out, what techniques have to be made operational in order to carry out our research. So these are the important four research design types or parts, that is sampling design, observational design, statistical design, and operational design. So in summary, sampling design deals with how to select the particular sample, and observational design deals with under what circumstances, under what situations the observations are to be made, and statistical design deals with after collecting all the information and after gathering the entire information, how the statistical methods have to be used for analyzing the given information, and operational designs with deals with the procedures to be carried out for the particular research. Okay, so this is in brief about the research design, and as I said, there are different types of design methods available: descriptive, correlative, experimental, review, and meta-analysis. We can follow any of these in order to come up with the questionnaire and answers for the given research problem. But before that, let us have a look at what are the features of a good research design. So whenever any research design is ready, what are the different criteria to decide that this is a good design, and what are the different reasons to decide that this is not a good design, or this is not the acceptable design, or something like that. So the author has come up with some list of factors which will be considered usually for validating the research design. So whether the research design is appropriate for a particular research problem or not. So all these factors will be very, very important in order to decide whether it is a good design or not. So first and foremost, the means of obtaining information, whether that is feasible or not, is also the question. So when we are collecting any information about the given research problem, what are the different means of information? As I have already mentioned that whether you are going to take the online data in the form of the Excel sheets or the CSV files, you're going to download and train your system for prediction, classification, etc. Or you are going to collect that information on a real-time basis. So where you are going to do the field study, there only you are going to fix up the setup, and on day-to-day basis you are collecting real-time data. And what is the means of obtaining the information? How actually the information you are obtaining is going to matter a lot. So that becomes the first factor. And the second factor is the availability and skills of the researcher and his staffs, if any. So of course, once the information is readily available and whatever information is expected is made available by some means, after that, how the skills of your researcher and his team will help in coming up with the proper use. So once sometimes it so happens that the information is abundant, abundant information is available, the information is available in very good quantity, but still we don't know how to process that information, how to use that information. So some skills are required by the researcher and his team in order to understand that information and how to make use of that information. So that is availability and skills of the researcher becomes the second factor. The third factor is the objective of the problem to be studied. The very, very important thing is the identifying the objective of that particular problem. That is, unnecessarily we should not enter into some area where we are not expecting any expected results. So we have to always go for the core part of the research problem and try to address the core part of the problem. Then we will be able to get what we want, what we desire in fact. So for that we should clearly define our objective. Then only we will be possibly doing the research in that particular area. So the nature of the problem to be studied is the very important parameter or the factor for a good design. And finally, the availability of time and money for carrying out the research work is also an important factor. That is, most of the time it so happens that we aim at the sky, but we will not be anywhere. So that's why, so whenever we take any problem with the available time in hand and with the available cost, or we can say that time complexity and cost effectiveness of any problem has to be analyzed thoroughly. That is, feasibility in terms of time and cost is very, very important before you take up any design. So if you come up with the conclusion that within this given stipulated time I can complete my research problem, and with this available budget I am able to complete the research, in that case the design qualifies to be the best or the good research design. So in summary or in total, there are around 5 important factors that will make the research design to qualify as a good research design. The first one is means of information. Second one is the availability and skills of the researcher and his team. And the third one is the objective of the given problem. And the fourth one is what is the nature of the problem. And the fifth one is the feasibility analysis. That is, with the given time and money or the budget, whether we will be able to complete this research design or not. So that was the discussion about under what conditions and on what factors we can decide whether the design is good or bad. After deciding whether the design is good and we can carry out the research work and complete the research work, before we proceed with that stage, we need to understand some important concepts that are related to the research design. Suppose if it is a mathematical design, suppose if it is a simulation kind of design, suppose if it is experimental kind of design, there are different ways of doing the research. So most of the things, when it is experimental, which is normally carried out by physics and chemistry people, they will be doing the experiment by taking the real models or real equipments, instruments, etc., and they will be carrying out or conducting the experiments, and they will be continuing with the research. And if it is a simulation kind of work, we'll be taking everything virtual and we'll be simulating the environment. If it is the mathematical modeling kind of research, mathematical concepts or hypotheses have to be used for analyzing the given problem. So for all these kinds of designs, there are some important concepts that are related to the research design. So the concept which can take on different quantitative values is called a variable. So that is which is common in all the three types of designs we discussed: experimental, simulation, or the mathematical modeling kind, wherein we will take a concept which can take on different quantitative values is called a variable. Suppose if weather monitoring problem is addressed by the researcher, in that case, if he is taking one of the variable as temperature variable, so that variable is going to take different quantitative values during the analysis or during the research process. So variable is the first concept that is important in research design. And the second important concept is continuous. That is a phenomena which can take on different qualitative values, even in decimal value, are called as the continuous. So variables and continuous are the two concepts. And after that, for every design we come across the two types of variables, that is dependent and independent variables. If one variable is dependent on another variable, and that type of variable is called as dependent variable. Suppose uh, a person lives in a particular city. In that case, say for example, if he is able to sustain the temperature condition, or if he is able to cope up with the temperature condition of that particular city like Delhi and all, if he is going to stay there, then there becomes two variables, the person who is staying there and the city. So that is, the person who is going to stay in that particular city becomes the dependent variable. But the other kind of variable is called as the independent variable, and we technically put that definition as the variable that is antecedent to the dependent variable is an independent variable. Say for example, height is dependent on age. So as age grows, height grows. Okay, till certain age, height keeps on growing, and after a certain level, the height stops. Okay, like that, height and age, if you take, both are dependent on each other. So like that, for any study, there will be different types of variables that are available for the study. The next one is extraneous variables. This is very, very important variable in the research design. That is, the nature or the definition of the extraneous variable goes like this. These variables are not related to the purpose of the study. Oh, one important thing to be understood here is the variable which we are talking about, extraneous variable, is not related to the purpose of the study, but may affect on the dependent variables directly or indirectly. This particular variable is going to affect on the dependent variable of our study. The important dependent variable of our study has been decided. If at all that dependent variable is affected by some variable that is not related at all to our study, is called as the extraneous variable. So let us have some example of extraneous variable. Suppose a researcher want to test the hypothesis that there is a relationship between children gains in social studies achievement and their self-concept. So in this case, self-concept is the independent variable. Self-concept is the general knowledge, self-knowledge of that particular student. And the second factor is social studies achievement. That is the dependent variable. So we are going to analyze the relationship between this dependent variable, social studies achievement, and independent variable, self-concept. If at all there is a improvement, or if at all there is any chance of affecting that particular dependent variable, then there is a extraneous variable. So sometimes intelligence may as well affect on the social achievement, that is if the intelligence is less, social achievement is less, and if the intelligence is more, social achievement will be more. So accordingly, the social achievement gets affected by some independent variable like self concept. So in that case, the self concept can be taken as extraneous variable. Of course, the self concept is not at all related to our study, but it is in turn affecting our dependent variable, that is social achievement. In that case, the self concept becomes the extraneous variable. So in most of the studies, we come across some extraneous variables, and in the further slides we will discuss how these extraneous variables have to be minimized and how the effect of these extraneous variables have to be minimized. That is the next slide, that is control. So one important characteristics of good research is to minimize the influence or effect of extraneous variables. So whenever you take any study, make sure that you have some extraneous variables, but to what extent those extraneous variables are affecting your dependent variables. If at all they are affecting very heavily, in that case you will have to minimize that effect. You have to control that effect of extraneous variables. The technical term control is used when we design the study minimizing the effect of extraneous independent variable. Okay, so that is another terminology, control. And the next terminology in the research design is confounded relationship. What is this confounded relationship? When the dependent variable is not free from the extraneous variable, that is, okay, always there is a extraneous variable which is affecting the dependent variable in the given study. The relationship between the dependent and independent variable is said to be confounded relationship. So as we studied the social studies achievement and the self concept, if there is a extraneous variable, if at all there is a influence of the extraneous variable on the dependent variable, to what extent the effect is there, and what exactly is the relationship between that extraneous variable and the dependent variable. That relationship is given a name, and that relationship is termed to be confounded relationship. Okay, we will be using this particular terminology for establishing the relationship. The next important thing is research hypothesis. So as we said, we will imagine some hypothetical situation and then try to solve the given research problem. So research hypothesis is also a common practice in research design. That is, when a prediction or hypothesized relations is to be tested by scientific methods, it is termed as the research hypothesis. And the research hypothesis is a predicative statement that relates an independent variable to dependent variable. So this research hypothesis is a predicative statement. So you might have come across the predicative statements, and we usually try to figure out what is the predicate and what is the subject from the given statement. Say for example, Rohan studies in GIT. Here GIT is a college. Okay, Rohan is a predicate. Let us assume that Rohan is X and GIT or the college is Y. The predicative statement is P of X comma Y. In this predicate statement P of X comma Y, there are two entities. One is the predicate, the other one is the college. Okay, sometimes the predicate will also exist in the form of loops or conditional statements. Suppose if we are doing some using some code for modeling if kind of statement. If X is greater than 100, do this, otherwise do this, something like that. In that case, that x greater than 100 is nothing but the predicate statement. So in some researches, it is very common practice to go for predicates of the given problem. Just to have an example, she lives in the city. That is, x is she and city is y. So x lives in y. So for example, x can be Mary or anybody, and y is the name of the city, that is Austin, is a predicative statement. That is, Mary lives in Austin is a predicative statement. As I said, predicates are also often used in statements and loop conditions. Suppose if x is greater than 100, then y is equal to x square. Here the predicate t of x is nothing but that condition, x greater than 100. Do this if at all x is greater than 100. Okay, that is kind of the predicate statement. So research hypothesis is a predicative statement that relates an independent variable to a dependent variable. So such predicative statements are used in the research designs. Okay, experimental and non-experimental hypothesis testing. So this is in general about the hypothesis testing. What are the characteristics of experimental hypothesis testing and non-experimental hypothesis? Research in which independent variable is manipulated. Oh, very important thing. That means there is a possibility, there is a provision for manipulating the value of independent variable. One thing is to be understood. Okay, that is, if at all the independent variable is manipulated, and that kind of hypothesis testing is called as the experimental hypothesis testing in research. Okay, suppose if the independent variable is not manipulated, then that kind of hypothesis testing is nothing but non-experimental hypothesis testing. So in the other example, we were discussing about one dependent variable and non-dependent variable, and we were discussing about the self concept of the self knowledge is important in achieving social achievement. In that case, if you are able to manipulate the value of the self concept, probably you can increase the social studies achievement. In that case, it is called as the experimental hypothesis testing. So generally, we come across these two types of hypothesis testings. And the next important concept in research design is the experimental and control groups. When a group is exposed to usual conditions, it is termed as the control group. Okay? So sometimes the group is exposed to the conditions which are favorable to the particular study. This is not like unusual condition, unfavorable condition. But if it is usual condition and it is exposed, it is called as the control group. But if the group is exposed to be some special condition, then it is called as the experimental group. Okay, so generally we represent these experimental groups and control groups using some mathematical notations in the hypothesis study. Okay, the next concept is treatment. Okay, we will represent all these things using a mathematical notation. What is this treatment? The different conditions under which experimental and control groups are put up usually is referred to as the treatment. Okay, then we come across some term called as the experiment. What do you mean by experiment? The process of examining the truth of a statistical hypothesis. Okay, if you are validating to what extent this particular thing is true statistically, if you are trying to determine that, if you are trying to examine that, relating to your research problem, then it is known as an experiment. So one example can be quoted for this. We can conduct an experiment to examine usefulness of a certain newly developed drug. How best the newly developed drug is useful and it is curing the patients. If you are examining that kind of concept, that kind of truth, if you are examining using a statistical hypothesis, then it is called as an experiment. Okay. So in simple terms, the research design can be followed in case of exploratory research study, wherein you will be asking a lot of questions about the research problems and will prepare the questionnaires about the research problem, and then we will be trying to find the answers for that. So second thing is research design can be in case of descriptive and diagnostic research. And the third thing is research design can be in case of hypothesis testing research studies. Okay. So exploratory research design is conducted for gaining better insight into the problem. So we'll be having an option to explore more on that particular research problem. Okay. But when we get better insight into the research problem, based on certain factors, that is, there are different factors that are going to help us in gaining better insight into a given problem. The first factor is evaluate the feasibility of a research project, maybe in terms of time frame that is given and with the budget that is given. You will have to do the feasibility analysis. Formulation of a statement, you have to formulate the given research problem and come up with the problem statement. Provide theoretical basis to a hypothesis. On what theoretical concepts this particular hypothesis is based on, and provide alternative approaches to a problem. How best this kind of problem have been solved, what are the alternative approaches for solving this problem in the past, based on some literature, based on some experimental study. We will have to take a decision and establish possibilities for further research. So what are the different possibilities for carrying out this research in future? And this kind of exploratory research design is used when researcher has only a vague idea about the entire problem during the study. That is, he is not having clear-cut idea of the problem. If the idea about the problem is very much clear, then there is no point in going for exploratory research design. But if the idea is only the vague idea, in such cases it helps the researcher in saving time and money of the researcher. Okay, so one example is given, that is, an advertising company got an account for a new coffee containing chicory. Okay, there is a chicory in the new coffee. The company started the investigation process with exploratory research in order to identify the situation. The researchers found that virtually no one had heard about chicory. It wasn't being used and no one seemed to know how to put it to use. This resulted in the hypothesis that the advertising could depict the chicory ingredient in whatever way the customer desired. So that is how the problem is explored, and the particular ingredient chicory was found in that coffee product. Okay, then that becomes the innovation, small innovation. In the next slides, we'll be studying the survey of concentrating literature. This is most simple and fruitful method of formulating the research problem. Without the literature survey, it is very difficult for the researchers to continue their work. Without having a look at the previous work, earlier workers and their tools, technologies, it is very difficult to continue the research. Hypothesis is taken from earlier workers and their usefulness is evaluated as a basis for the further research. So review available material for deriving the relevant hypothesis from it. So whatever literature is available, material is available, use it for doing the research. So that is the experience or expert survey. The experience survey means the survey of people who had practical experience. The objective is to obtain new ideas relating to the research problem. The systematic interviewing format with flexibility can also be adopted, and expert can also provide the source of hypothesis, modus operandi of conducting research, source of information, from where the information is available, possible problems in the study can be obtained, and if at all these things are available, we call it as experience or expert survey. And sometimes people depend on case studies, live case studies, in order to understand the problem, also called inside stimulating examples. Because there are some stimulating examples in the case study, what they refer. Based on that, the study of all cases which are prevalent to the area of study and which are relatively unformulated problems, the person will be able to identify the problem, and it is very easy for him to examine the existing records and adopt some fruitful method for suggesting a particular hypothesis. So there are different differentiations between the descriptive and diagnostic research, and this table gives the comparison between the descriptive and diagnostic. That is, the descriptive is flexible design and diagnostic is not flexible. Descriptive is judgmental, but the diagnostic is random. Descriptive is no predefined design, but the diagnostic is always predefined, predetermined design. And descriptive is not fixed design about the operational procedures, but it is the fixed one. So like this, we have different types of the research designs. So in this class, we have just gone through some basic terminologies and the basic design parts and the definition or brief explanation about, and we have a small insight into what is the research design is all about. But we'll be discussing in detail about the very first research design, that is sampling design, in our next class.